So if you wouldn't mind, please like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. We are doing a live off Rumble today, and we are actually going to do a reaction to an Alex Jones video. He just released a new video this morning in regards to a whistleblower coming clean about the 15-minute cities, which we've been hearing about for quite some time now. The 15-minute cities are pretty much a government-controlled facility where you can access all necessities within a 15-minute radius. Pretty much no seclusion from the outside world, sorry about that, or being able to travel or go to certain other places unless your government approves you from doing that. It's very scary, and I've been hearing about it for quite some time. It looks like it's going on in Australia right now, and it's getting moved very fast to the US. And this is very, very important video right here. I only saw the first few minutes, and I knew right off the bat when I saw it that I'm going to have to do a live video exposing this video, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get it started, y'all.
That's brewing. And leading up to the presidential election, they know they cannot win. They have all of these encampments set up. They're furthering their plans to further set up more. I believe these are going to be to house exactly like that documentary from the Weather Underground, to house dissidents or those who might push back, or those who, when they do the next.
So pretty much Trump supporters. When Trump supporters come out and say, look, we know what's happening. We can see what's happening. The great replacement theory is happening right in front of our eyes. The government's going to force you into these 15-minute cities so they can capture you and kind of control every aspect of what you do. And if you don't agree, they're going to kill you. That's just what I think is going to happen. We can see what's happening. The world's turned into chaos under Joe Biden. We almost are on bricks of nuclear war under Joe Biden, and they are doing nothing to solve it. Instead, what they're doing are putting in these little plans into the works under the table, and it's all coming out now. And I hope this lady actually goes through everything that's happening under our watch.
Pandemic that they're sending individuals to. This is a brilliant military operation, make no mistake. And I believe America needs to be educated on this. They need to understand. And more importantly, I tell everybody, don't take my word for it. I don't want you to take my word for it. I've done the research. I have the skills. I have the programs that I can get into and look at and make a really intelligent analysis from a strategic perspective. But I want you to think for yourself and start looking at this information that I've laid out here. And Alex, I really hope that you lay out the full brief that I gave, where individuals can actually get their eyes on this and go to the resources. I have cited resources, government resources, where you can get this information. This is so important and so critical, because we are going to have terrorist attacks on our soil. Soft targets will be hit. American lives will be effective and unfortunately killed. Leading up, I believe that they're looking for chaos. They're looking for civil unrest, so they can usher in what I believe will be martial law. Well, first and foremost, their 2030 agenda had to be supercharged to 2025. Those aren't my words. Those are actual words from the
Because they know that not just the United States, the world population is waking up. There's like a conservative revolution happening, where usually all these, like before or during COVID, all these people voted left, even though I don't believe that's true. I think that with the ballot and the ballot stuffing, that's what caused this big leftist election, which came out of nowhere. And now the people are waking up, and they're sick of it. They're sick of the tyranny that's going on around the country, being told what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say. And they are revolting. And our way of revolting is voting conservative across the frickin' board.
UEF.
You're right, because they're behind.
They're behind. Well, and also, you know, they're a little arrogant, and so they are smug, and they let the cat out of the bag a little bit sooner. They thought that they could do.
And by the way, their smugness is an act. From my own research, they're in a lot of trouble.
They are. So they're scrambling to keep their plans together. And we are so far behind the curve, Alex. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm very hopeful that the American people and the rest of the world who love freedom, love liberty, who are willing to stand up, not just act. Words, it's great to sit around a table and discuss this, or on your programs. Words are powerful, but more powerful than words are you actually getting off your butt.
And let's talk about action, because people can see all the craziness. They know the big moves happening. This is it, folks. You're totally right.
And they've developed this plan to completely reset the world on a global stage. Again, I've already said we already have the parallel government in place. You know, Alex, I say you look at the World Economic Forum, think about that as the White House, because I like to put this in layman's terms. You've got the United Nations. Think of the United Nations as our Senate and the House of Representatives. The IMF, the banking system. NATO, our military force. The WHO, the FDA and CDC. So you can see that we've got this parallel government already ready to go. And by the way, the leaders are already in place there with where their roles will be. And so everyone's like, well, who are they? Well, that's who they are. The banking system is huge. These people are.
The they is the unelected bureaucrats that run the strings behind this administration who are really in charge. I'd say the Rockefellers, big business, the banks, yes, they are the ones running this administration behind the scenes.
Evil, by the way, the Rothschilds. We don't even have time to get it on. I know you have educated leaders. So what I'm trying to say is the final phase is the military operation. And how do you, under the noses of everybody in the world, the American people, usher in internment camps, all of these reprocessing camps, everything that we need to the brainwashing camps? Well, you do it under mass migration, right? Or under a pandemic. And that's what we've seen. And that's what we're seeing in 4 years, multi-trillions of dollars being spent for the demise of the American ideology and the Constitution, quite frankly.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. Visit Infowars.com/show and share the link today.
All right, we had a former senior Border Patrol agent on last week who's put out a documentary film exposing the massive expansion of emergency centers under FEMA civilian camps in America. And he said one of his great sources was Christina Hutcherson, and she's a federal contractor, board expert, geopolitical security expert in defense contracting for 25 years and strategic execution and planning. And I'm not going to go over her whole bio, but she's at WFFA.win, meetforamerica.org. And she has really documented what's really going on. She sent me an excellent breakdown, which we moved her from last week today because she's such a big guest. I wanted to get more details of specifically what she has seen and what she has witnessed. Because we know going back to Rex 84 under Reagan and well, before that with the Japanese internment camps, this is going on. And it's admitted in a lot of documents, but according to her information, it's being expanded. Then we turn on the nightly news, we're told Trump's a dictator. We got to put the Trump supporters in prisons. So they accuse us of what they're doing, and they're pushing this whole.
That's the key to all this. The left always will accuse you of exactly what they are doing. The Democrats are the party of hypocrisy, and I'm just going to stay there because I do think that they are groomers and pedophiles that run that party, and it's disgusting, especially in regards to what they support with the trans agenda, which is also being forced onto the public. They force these movements to divide us and to get us not onto the main message and what we should most be talking about, which is uniting and taking the deep state cabal. And instead, they push these movements to divide us, to keep us, the white and black or minorities or these voters, just fighting and bickering at each other when we should be coming together.
Totalitarian system, and they use COVID to build these camps all over the world. So clearly, this is being pushed as an idea. So it's great to have Christina Hutcherson on with us. Christina, you can start at the beginning or wherever you want to raise the alarm as a modern Paul Revere. Thank you so much for being on with us. And sorry I moved you from last week to today, but thanks for being here.
No, thank you so much, Alex, for having me on. It's a pleasure. Yeah, we are in serious peril times right now. And I was listening to the opening, and it's very true. What has been going on over decades has been a precursor to where we are now. It's not just a psych op, but it's what we call scent ops. A scent op is basically a social intel psychological operation as well. And so we had to slowly, like the frog, condition not just Americans, but on a global scale, the normalcy of having these types of encampments all over the United States and outside of the United States borders to usher in what I believe can be utilized for very nefarious activity.
So tell.
And they're going to use the illegals to do this kind of stuff, I would say. For instance, in Australia, I've seen a couple of videos recently where they're paying the people of Australia to house illegals. And then once you agree to house them, not only do you get paid a little sum of money, but then they bring in like these almost like treasure chests. And a couple of these people were curious, what are these people bringing in my house? So I'm going to go and check. And they actually had a video of them saying exactly what was in those chests, which are AK, rifles, pistols, all types of guns, even grenades. So they're letting these people that we have no clue where they're from in random houses, and then they're just giving them these cases that's supposed to be their stuff, when in reality it's guns and ammo and stuff that is just going to cause havoc on the communities. So they let them in, give them all these free resources, and then they give them guns and tell them pretty much just go hunt down the civilians who are the law-abiding citizens. Guaranteed that's what's coming next to America. Otherwise, why are they giving them all these free resources? Why are they kind of just shuffling this under our noses without telling us the full truth? Because there's a plan. And I feel like that's actually the last plan in play is if Trump doesn't win, which we all know he's going to spank Joe Biden, then they're going to usher in the illegal plan, which is give them all guns and just cause havoc on the population. Otherwise, what other reason would there be to give these illegals over homeless veterans and homeless Americans all of this free shit if that wasn't the plan? That's just what I think, at least.
I know you're a current contractor, so you get into that, but when you started to see things you were concerned about, when you decided to go public, I mean, what you've witnessed, what's actually happening?
Well, so my journey started in 2020. I'm the CEO of a company. I've been in the government contracting realm for over 25 years. We helped with the troop drawdown in Iraq and Afghanistan. We were over there for 5.5 years. We won 4 LEAP awards for the certain many projects that we did over there. We've been contracted for under DHS. We were contracted under President Trump to look at wars on different fronts. So our organization has been entrenched in the DLA, the DOD, the Pentagon, and other agencies for a very long time. And so when I started looking at everything that was going on, in 2020, leading up to the 2020 presidential election, which I believe was the second coup attempt on American soil, the first being John F. K. I'm a Christian, Alex, and I was called to do this. I stepped down as CEO of my company at that time. I created what's called Women Fighting for America. And 2 weeks into the Biden administration, I had a friend of mine call me up and say, Christy, I want you to can you go look at what's going on in Yuma, Arizona? 2 weeks into the Biden administration. So this was a pre-planned invasion. I believe that this is a military operation, and we're going to get into the weeds of this, and we're going to break this down into bites that every American citizen can actually understand in their terms. Because when I started on the journey, I took a very small elite team with me because I didn't want to just look at Yuma. God said, Christy, I want you to take the team, go into Tijuana, Mexico, and I want you to drive the full 2,000 plus southern miles of the border. And that's exactly what we've done. I've also been on the northern border, 30 states in between, East Coast, West Coast borders, and I've been outside of the United States as well, both in Latin America, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Europe, looking into a very deep dive from an intelligence perspective of how the globalist elites, how our own administration and other government agencies around the world, and I believe also certain countries' leaders are involved and engaged in this global plan for control.
So let's talk about
it's
what
so
you started
obvious.
witnessing and what specifically, from what I've seen, the film here and the researchers, the Border Patrol whistleblower, they're expanding these all 50 states. What's happening?
That's correct. So in the brief that I gave you, if you want to talk about FEMA specifically, so we'll flip over to the FEMA. And I made this detailed briefing.
We can start in the beginning. Give us a briefing. Start at the beginning if you want.
Sure. Okay. I did it because it's very important for everybody to understand this. So the executive summary, this is a comprehensive analysis of migrant processing and housing facilities, AKA illegals. And this is a huge scope. It doesn't just cover United States. It covers Latin America, Caribbean, Canada, and Europe. These are Nazi Germany repurposing infrastructures that I have seen. So why do I say that this is a military operation? Because when you're in theater
I could answer that because it's the military. No offense, I know it's under order, but it's the military that's allowing this to happen. Like, I thought we had like legal like processes in place to where if this ever did happen, we'd be able to take out, like, let's say, I'm not saying kill, because I'm not going to get the FBI sent here to my house, but I'm talking about if you're breaking the law, regardless if you're president, shouldn't there be memes and place where you get arrested for breaking the law? I mean, we literally have treason being committed on American people at the highest degree on a daily basis. You're letting in millions upon millions per year of illegals. We have no clue who they are. They're not properly vetting these people. Now, I've been hearing about 60 to 80% of all the people coming across are just middle-aged men by themselves. I'm sorry, but if there were people in dire situations in other countries of the world because of war, they would have kids with them. They would have women with them because they are the most vulnerable. The kids are our future. And if they're not bringing these kids across and it's just middle-aged men from China, from Russia, from Ukraine, from just everywhere, you can't just assume that every single person is a good person. They're not running proper vetting on these people as well. We're just letting them free range just come in. And then there's a lot of homeless or illegals on the streets because there's too many of them that they can't put all these people up in the hotels, even though they are with a lot of them. So what do you think they're going to do when they get sick of being homeless, sleeping on the street? They're going to attack Americans. They're going to take what they have away from them. And it's going to be chaos. I really believe these next few months before the election time comes around, it's going to be absolute chaos. And I'm just saying, always check your surroundings and make sure if you are out in public with your kids, you check and make sure they're always by you, because I see stories every single day, all day. And let's just say it's going to get crazy.
In war zones, that's what in theater means. Or outside of war zones, when you have to go in and you have to set up immediate type of structures to either house the dissidents or the terrorists or the criminals, or also to protect and defend the troops or the civilians who are going to be in these facilities. If you look at how they have set these camps up around the United States, they are very reminiscent of what we would do on a military style operation. And this is very concerning. If they weren't concerned, if the federal government wasn't so concerned, why would you have to put out for bid in the private sector armed guard services? Breaking down everything from egress, static sites. We're going to get into that, but this is very, very concerning. So when you look at on page, the overview of sites. So in the United States, and by the way, their numbers are false, but we're just going to go by their numbers. Capacity, 39,400 migrants, key locations, New York, New Jersey, Texas, Arizona, California, facility types, hotels, military barracks, detention centers, and temporary shelters. Latin America, key countries, Mexico, Panama, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, Aruba, the Bahamas. And I have a more detailed list of every single country in the Caribbean. Shelters, processing centers, private accommodations, Canada, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, the type of facilities. Shelters, temporary housing, processing centers in Europe, UK, Ireland, Spain, Germany, France, Italy, Greece, reception centers, informal settlements, hotels, converted buildings. So when I look at this for potential military repurposing, if you look at historical data, Alex, and you played some of that at the beginning under Nazi Germany, they repurposed infrastructure for military and concentration camp purposes. Today's facilities could similarly be adapted for controlling populations, housing military personnel, and managing logistics. So what does repurposing scenario look like? So as we would break this down from a military term, you would have detention and internment camps. You would have military barracks. You would have logistical hubs, interrogation and intelligence centers, quarantine and health control centers. I don't know about you, Alex, but under COVID, do you kind of remember what was going on, what you showed at the beginning of your program? Also, think about
that was one of the keys to conditioning people. They admitted was COVID. Yeah, it's right there in their own admissions.
And you look at the WHO treaty and the sign off of all of these world leaders allowing the WHO to have control. And make no mistake, even if you go in and look at some of the governors, I live in Florida, Governor DeSantis, he still has not repealed a law that he put into place that if there's another pandemic and the WHO treaty executes, they can still come and round you up. This is frightening, everybody. Civilian control centers, as we call them CCCs. So strategic implications and dangers of this: security risk, authoritarian control, human rights violations, social unrest, geopolitical instability. Migration has a weapon, which we're already seeing migration as a weapon. And I'm going to talk about that for just a second, Alex, before we move on. Illegals who are placed into populations and are allowed to breach the laws of a country in a sovereign land. First and foremost, every person that's entering the United States illegally, they, by our own laws right now, are not allowed to even stay in the country. They should be completely deported out of the country based on.
I agree. I mean, if you are breaking our federal laws, why the hell are they allowed to stay? I mean, if we broke the law, we'd be thrown into prison. But I mean, if you haven't even paid a cent into the tax system, you've contributed nothing beneficial to the American people, and you're already starting your way to America, and you start by breaking federal laws, why the hell should you be moved to the front of the line to get in compared to the people who are legally doing it? Yeah, I think we need to shut that down ASAP when Trump's in the White House. ASAP.
On our own law. So we have the highest levels of the office of the White House giving instructions to Alejandro Mayorkas, DHS, who oversees Border Patrol and our national security from the interior. They are telling them to stand down and not to uphold the laws that are already on the book. So in essence, they are breaking currently our constitutional laws.
And by the way, Rex 84 under Reagan, they proposed to him martial law if the border collapsed, which was their older plan. Now they're collapsing it and using that as an excuse for martial law. So it's basically Rex 84 happening now.
That you're 100% correct. And then you look at geopolitical instability with economy. It's an economic strain. So what are we seeing, Alex? We are already trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. We are beholden to China. China owns most of our debt. This is very dangerous ground. That's a story for later on or another day. But if you look at the impact that the illegals are having right now, it's over $2 trillion that our taxpayer-funded dollars are utilizing to take care of illegals coming into our country. Housing, food.
This money, this is probably the one thing that pisses me off the most in regards to like the resources being spent on illegals who aren't even from this country compared to, let's say, homeless veterans or Americans barely getting by. With this economy right now, everything is more difficult, especially when it comes to prices. And I just feel terrible for the homeless Americans / especially veterans who are on the street. And it's costing us that much money to help these illegals, yet we can't spend $1 million, which is a lot, but I think we should be spending all those trillions on our homeless veterans. But it's just sad that our government doesn't think, we have homeless Americans. Let's help them first, since we are in America and we are America elected leaders. But of course they don't, because they're scum, they're sellouts, and they don't care about you.
Shelter, school systems, hospital systems, critical infrastructure like ambulances and things like that are taking away jobs. I mean, I could go on and list the economic instability and the strain that this is going to put on our economy and our country. We cannot sustain this, Alex. What is this for? Well, I can tell you, it's to collapse our internal financial strength as the United States of America, I believe.
Oh, no, I was about to say, they're getting ready to implode the old financial system and then pose us as savers when you have no food or energy or money and you have to come to these camps. It's not like, just like with a cell phone, you beg to be tracked and controlled. They're going to make most people beg to go to these.
That's correct. And think about the agricultural implications of this as well. So you've got Bill Gates, you have China who owns Smithfield Foods, which is, by the way, the largest pork producing manufacturer and food company, period, in the United States. Then you look at the migration, and we're going to get into all of the camps and all of the locations. Well, they're strategically placed also during and near trade routes. That is very critical, because imagine now these camps that are placed from Central America all the way up through Mexico and into Canada and also through the Caribbean, when they are turned into, I believe, some of these military outposts, they can also stop the flow of goods and services and critical needs, whether it's medicine, food, supplies, etc., to squeeze like a boa constrictor the United States of America. And again, a brilliant military strategy. So you look at historical pattern analysis, and that's what I've done as well. Geopolitical instability, economic disparities, climate change impacts, the climate change hoax, that's another way of regulation and control that they are utilizing. And this climate migration is false.
It's a cult. The climate change agenda is just a cult. It's just another way for them to push more bills, push more laws into place that they can control us in regards to the climate. It's ridiculous. No one's falling for it unless you're one of those stupid Democrat voters.
Narrative, again, to lure individuals, again, through psychological warfare and syntop, social media warfare, conflicts in the Middle East and Africa. We'll get into that if we have time. But all of this, make no mistake, whether it's the Ukraine, whether it's the invasion on October 7th into Israel, whether it's the climate crisis and all of the migration crisis, not just in America, and we're going to delve into how this is implicating the rest of the free Western world. All of this is a brilliant military operation to, I believe, usher in the new world system. We already have a parallel government that was set up, started in 1971. All moving pieces, all of the chess pieces are in place. The only thing, Alex, that is standing in the way is the United States of America. And when I say that, I'm not talking about President Donald Trump. I believe he's an incredible president. I'm fully behind him and supportive of him. We need him in office, but he is not going to be able to do the job alone. What they're afraid of is the American people and the American spirit. That's who they have to remove to completely destabilize and take out the United States of America.
And not just America, but the whole world, because America is not there to be looked up to. The whole world falls. But I want to go through your great briefing here, and there's a lot more to get to. We only covered like 5%.
The key to taking out the deep state, I believe, is the CIA. The CIA has ran all these coups on the American people or psyops on the American people and other countries, and installing these shadow governments. For example, Ukraine. They've been doing it forever, also killing world leaders. They are the epitome of what's wrong with this country in regards to the music industry, in regards to the movie industry, the rich Hollywood elites. They are owned and ran by the CIA, who also ran the Epstein Islands, ran the Diddy Islands. It's all connected at the top from the CIA, who also took out an ex-president, who are now trying to take out Trump by all legal means, as they say, which we all know is just horse shit.
Percent of it. But larger issue, when did you start seeing the specifics about building and expanding all these emergency internment camps around the country?
So this is a pretty quick spin up. So I'm going to skip to the FEMA section so we can kind of go over that, because I think it's very important to talk about this. So from a contractual perspective, so when you're in the contracting world, Alex, there's certain sites that you have to pay for and be vetted to have access to these government contracts. You have to have NATE codes. You have to have all sorts of approvals by the federal government to access this information. So recently, and this was in April, end of April, beginning of June, they put out an IDIQ. So the IDIQ, if you go to, actually, it's even beyond that. So FEMA Operations Support for Security Guard Contractors. They also have it disguised under housekeeping, which I thought was a really interesting way to word this particular type of contract, to include it as housekeeping services. So FEMA, I'm going to read it. FEMA is seeking operations support for security guard contractors that utilize fully qualified DOL category 27102 Guard 2 security services, and actually Guard 2 level EOS services and personnel. These services are required across various security posts and activities to ensure the safety and security of FEMA facilities and operations. The contract is structured as an IDIQ, which is an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, and request for information. The initial contract term is for 5 years with a total value of $29 million over that 5 years, and it includes options to extend. So I'm going to break that down really quick, what that actually means. So armed guard, it's really that simple. These are guards who have certain qualifications. They are armed guard services, and they need to have special qualifications. And the companies that they're going after have to have very serious background in theater, which is again in war zones and other requirements they're doing. So key security services and responsibilities, Alex: guard post and static sites. Purpose: maintain consistent security presence at designated locations. Responsibilities: monitoring and securing entry and exit points, ensuring unauthorized individuals do not gain access, reporting suspicious activities. We'll skip the qualifications. Access egress control. Purpose: manage and monitor flow of individuals entering and leaving the facility. Responsibilities: checking identification and verifying credentials, controlling access to restricted areas, logging entry and exit times. Security screening. Purpose: ensure that individuals entering the premises do not pose a security threat. Responsibilities: conducting searches of persons and belongings, utilizing metal detectors and X-ray machines, identifying prohibited items. Visitor processing. Purpose: facilitate the secure and efficient processing of visitors. Responsibilities: registering visitors and issuing visitor badges, escorting visitors to their destinations in some instances, maintaining visitor logs. Patrol and response. Purpose: conduct regular patrols and respond to incidences. Responsibilities: patrolling designated areas to deter and detect security breaches, responding to alarms and incidences, providing assistance and reporting findings. Traffic control. Purpose: manage and control traffic flow to ensure safety and security. Responsibilities: directing vehicular and pedestrian traffic, implementing traffic control measures, ensuring safe entry and exit of vehicles. Contract information. It's an IDIQ. They have an RFI. And Alex.
And by the way, you're not just saying this from you being a contractor witnessing this. This is in public documents that are being, because I recognize these, we've covered on air. This is going on.
This is active. This is going on. And by the way, this IDIQ is being rapidly awarded. And the other thing that was really alarming to me when I was looking at this, Alex, and I break this down on that page with Alabama where you just saw where it was detailed. If I saw this contract come out for 2, 3, 4 states, and I would expect that your usual typical players, you got Chicago, New York, New Jersey, where they've Texas, right? But when me and my team were looking at this IDIQ, and it was very clever how they've broken this down. This has been put out for bid in almost all 50 states under, again, different IDIQ names. They didn't want to put it under one huge umbrella because, of course, that would be pretty, in my opinion, major red flags.
So you saw Department of Defense style compartmentalization.
That's correct. And what's other interesting is not only is this a FEMA contract, Alex, this is a contract actually by DHS that has been, they're the oversight. And DHS, Department.
So what it looks like is DHS, Alexandro Mayorkas, who is a disgusting human being, is literally just running a human sex trafficking organization through the United States off our taxpayer dime. And then they are rewarding these illegals with free everything off our taxpayer dime. What do you think they're going to do when it comes down to the election and it shows that Trump did win? You think they're just going to be forced out without a fight? I digress. But I do think that they're going to be using these illegals that are coming by the millions per year in their advantage by pushing Americans into these 15-minute homes. That's what I think. They're going to use the illegals for one last thing, their last little plan they have in place. of making us a slave country, and they're going to use these illegals all around the world that have flooded all these countries to scare us into backing down. But we can't do that. As we know, it's either fight or slavery in this election.
Department of Homeland Security put this contract out to bid under the umbrella of FEMA.
And I've studied this for decades, but it looks to me like it's being radically accelerated right now.
Everything that I'm seeing, that is a correct statement.
Continuing through your breakdown.
So when you look at, so let's go back and let's look at that page that you had with Alabama. So we could sit there. I've detailed all of the locations in a pretty high level view of every facility, both operated by the NGOs and other private sectors, the hotels, our government.
For those that don't know, they've already beta tested with the illegal aliens and the NGOs in Europe and the US.
That's correct. And it's staggering. You have those numbers in front of you, Alex. It's pretty staggering looking at this report where all of these camps are already currently up and running.
Liberal
and so when you
states.
look at, I have to go back here. So let's look at the Alabama. Sorry, there's so many of them. So new and planned facilities, 2024. Regional processing centers, Guatemala and Colombia.
Here's a new reason, probably one of the most important reasons on why you shouldn't vote for a Democrat this next election, right here. Educate yourself, look up both sides, see what they're seeing, or seeing what they're saying and what they're doing. I'm telling you, they are floating so much stuff under the radar that I'm glad we have people like Alex Jones who have big platforms to be able to have these whistleblowers on to expose this. This is crazy.
Potential expansion centers in Ecuador and Costa Rica. Arizona, Yuma and Tucson sectors, they're currently building new facilities now. Texas, El Paso, new soft-sided facilities and large-scale processing centers. And by the way, these are for 2024. So I think that that's really important for you and your listeners to understand. You've got near Laredo, a new hub that's being installed. Other states, FEMA, DHS, these are out for bid.
And I think it's
Alabama,
dual use for citizens and illegals, right?
when I'm looking at this and I've broken down and I've been studying this, I cannot come to any other conclusion. This is a conclusion. I look at the data, I look at information. That's what we do in the when you're doing a deep dive into analysis of what there possibly could be.
Christina, understand we got to go to break. Stay there. Your conclusion when we come back, you'll continue on for another 30 minutes. I'll be back again soon. Great work on this. We'll be right back in a few minutes, folks. Tell everybody you know, tune in now. This is important. JonesNaturals.com.
Located into the new way.
Most important news from the powerful
48 states. Well, Alex, currently we have 38 states that have existing or expanding migrant processing and housing facilities. They have ongoing plans and the potential to extend these facilities to all 50 states. When all existing and planned facilities are operational, when they execute on all of these contracts that are already out for bid, 48 states in the United States will have migrant processing and housing facilities, which of course can be utilized in a very nefarious activity, which I laid out in a military style briefing, which we'll get to at the end when I bring all of this together. What's really important, I think, also to understand is that this is a global agenda. If you look at all of I broke down on a world scale, every processing facility, camp, however they want to name them, everywhere up and down the Caribbean, up and down Latin America, Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, Canada, Ireland, Scotland, Spain, Italy, England, you name it, Greece, no place has been safe. These facilities have been set up all over the world. You cannot tell me, Alex, that all of a sudden in the history of the world and how the migration patterns of individuals leaving their home countries for whatever reason, whether it's economic reasons, whether it's famine reasons, whether it's persecution, wars, famine, whatever, that all of a sudden on an unprecedented scale since 2020, that we have seen a massive uptick in 4 years in an unprecedented way to redistribute individuals from really bad countries. I'm going to be honest with you, from the Muslim world, from
Yeah, a lot of these countries, they wish death upon America. They don't like America. They want Americans to be tortured, to be killed, and they want to take our land away. It is nothing new. I mean, you see some of the people that are coming across the border, they don't look like they're coming from war-torn countries or coming with children. It's mostly just middle-aged men. And lately, I've been looking into those numbers. It looks like a lot of middle-aged men from China and Russia are coming across our border, and we have no clue who they are. Think about this. Palestine war going on right now. A lot of them wish death to America. We have an open border. You don't think a lot of terrorists included are even coming across our border? If not, you don't know what's going on. It's insane.
special interest countries, which are basically terrorist countries or known terrorist countries who do activity. Single young adult males coming in and flooding our borders. Well over almost 70% who's coming over the border are young adult males. I've personally, me and my team, have been in what we call no man's land. This is an area where there's no phones. We have to have satellite phones. We've camped out there in the desert, and with like I said, guys with very special skill sets. We've got all the goodies, and we have tracked the cartels working hand in hand with terrorists, Iranians, Iran's Revolutionary Guard, China, you name it, and they're bringing these special interest aliens.
So let's get this straight. Terrorists are working with our number one enemy, China, together to bring terrorists and insane people that should never be in America across that border. And they are being allowed in our country. And that's that. I'm telling you, I will continue to say, if you vote for Joe Biden this next administration or Democrats after the past 4 years, you're not a serious person.
Over here, by the way, of the tune of over $150,000, depending on the high value target that these individuals are. Our own government knows this. Our own Border Patrol and law enforcement know this. But
by the way, the FBI said that record numbers of Islamic terrorists, others are in the country now.
So I believe that there's going to be the perfect storm that's brewing. And leading up to the presidential election, they know they cannot win. They have all of these encampments set up. They're further.
That's the key to all of this. They know they cannot beat Trump. They know this election, they've been exposed. They know that the people are not falling for their BS lies anymore and their propaganda. So they are freaking out. They are using their last stitch effort, and that is to flood the border and to use these illegals in some way possible. And I guarantee they know where a lot of these people are, including a lot of where these terrorists are. And they're going to use it for a Black Swan event, which they've been warning about for quite some time now. It's very sad that Americans and innocent people have to die to keep these little cocksuckers in power for their political benefit. It's disgusting.
Their plans to further set up more. I believe these are going to be to house exactly like that documentary from the Weather Underground, to house dissidents or those who might push back, or those who, when they do the next pandemic, that they're sending individuals to. This is a brilliant military operation, make no mistake. And I believe America needs to be educated on this. They need to understand. And more importantly, I tell everybody, don't take my word for it. I don't want you to take my word for it. I've done the research. I have the skills. I have the programs that I can get into and look at and make a really intelligent analysis from a strategic perspective. But I want you to think for yourself and start looking at this information that I've laid out here. And Alex, I really hope that you lay out the full brief that I gave, where individuals can actually get their eyes on this and go to the resources. I have cited resources, government resources, where you can get this information. This is so important and so critical, because we are going to have terrorist attacks on our soil. Soft targets will be hit. American lives will be effective and unfortunately killed. Leading up, I believe that they're looking for chaos. They're looking for civil unrest. So they can usher in what I believe will be martial law, possibly. So you have.
Yep, if you have enough, let's say, planned terrorist attacks, because they have an open border, which they're just allowing terrorists to come across. Let's say it's right before election time and there's few hundred explosions that just pop off in the middle of the country, they're going to say, oh, it's too dangerous to have an election. So I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to lock it down. We're not going to have an election. It's getting to historic times we're in right now. Pretty crazy just hearing all this.
You have to look at these scenarios. You have to look at the writing on the wall, and you have to come up with
Sure. I mean, we have more time to go over your briefing. Keep going over the other areas of it.
So, I mean, if you look at what's going on in Canada, Latin America, Europe, facilities, UK, Ireland, Spain, Germany, UK, 3,200 migrant housing spots across major cities in England and Scotland, Ireland, 2,170 migrant housing spots, Spain, 9,050 migrant housing spots, primarily in the Canary Islands and major cities. Europe, 15,000 migrant housing spots across Germany, France, Italy, and Greece. Italy, including the islands, facilities with a total capacity of 14,000 migrants. Again, the NGOs being used as, I believe, one of the greatest money laundering schemes of all time to bring down the demise of America and the rest of the world is the NGOs, that public-private partnership. By the tune of over $2 billion have been awarded to these NGOs. United Way, Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, Bethany Christian.
It's so sad. And as you can hear the names, there are a lot of like Catholic organizations, and they're just getting cashed out by like using them as a front for this illegal behavior and action to be taking place. So disgusting.
Services, the Mormons, I could list them on at Catholic Charities if I didn't already say that one. Red Cross, Salvation Army, all of these entities are aiding and abetting the demise of our country.
And people were worried back when George W. Bush did a deal for federal funding of churches. And a lot of conservatives like, great, but it violates church and state. But it wasn't to fund churches to promote Jesus. It was to fund religious organizations to become government front groups for the UN invasion. And we have the clergy response team videos we've got going back 20 years ago, 10 years ago, where they're quietly training preachers and paying them to be basically federal officers to tell folks, go to...
That probably disgusts me more than anything, that churches actually allowed this to happen and just said, okay, like little sheep, just because they got cashed out for this. Like, where are the morals? Like, I really got to look into some of the stuff I'm hearing today, even though I never doubt Alex Jones. He's always right. But some of the stuff I'm hearing is just insane to me, that these groups that you'd think are helping like homeless people or Christians are really just cashing out by having these illegals come across their border and using their name so that people think there's no bad like actions behind scenes that are taking place. Disgusting.
Camps, turn your guns to control their churches.
You know, what really was alarming too is if you look at, again, like under Katrina, which you showed that film footage, Americans, they either forgot or they weren't paying attention. And they are looking at every single way possible to take the guns. China.
That's right. Katrina was a microcosm for a national emergency, a social unrest, a collapse, a cyber attack. Katrina, all the guns will be taken, and they had the preachers, the local organizations, the YMCA, all of them there to help put people in camps.
You know, neighbor spying on neighbor, turning neighbor in. Is this reminiscent of any other time in history? I would say so. I would say under Hitler's regime, street clearing, going street to street. By the way, Alex, they're also having exercises and drills. This has been going on for almost 3 years now. So the FBI and our other agencies have actually gone into major hospital systems, typically most of the ones that are funded by public dollars, right, federal dollars. Houston is one of the biggest, largest ones. There's some in Chicago and other places where they've told them, we want you to conduct mass casualty event drills. This has been going on for the last 3 years. It's also not a coincidence that they've also been testing our emergency response systems. This is all part of that plan. The sheriffs, I am very close to many sheriffs. I've worked with them for the last 4 years. And I can tell you, the sheriffs last fall, they were doing major training by our government agencies on mass casualty terrorist type events, and they were targeting soft targets and schools. This is very concerning. So they know something's up. Christopher Wray, I'm not a fan, but let me tell you something.
He says there's all the flashing lights, the worst we've ever seen.
And when they come out and they start talking,
yet the FBI does nothing. Instead, they actually go arrest people who are there on January 6th praying outside or old. This is just becoming ridiculous how shitty this administration is. We're just arresting all these Trump supporters who some were bad apples, yes, but majority of them were let in, just walked around the Capitol or inside the Capitol. And, oh, it's the end of democracy. Yet you have crazy stuff happening like this on the daily, and the FBI just does nothing. They do nothing. All they do is lip service. They talk and then they do nothing to fix this issue. This issue is the #1 issue in the world right now. And all the governments that are in charge that are allowing this to happen, all Democrat administrations across the board, are failing miserably. And they wonder why no one buys their BS anymore. Because of this. They're liars. They cannot be trusted.
and speaking about this, they know that the next phase is coming. So we need to be prepared for the next phase, because what they're doing is, again, this is called scent ops and psychological warfare. They're preparing you. So you're like, oh, well, Christopher Wray mentioned that. Well, we kind of knew it was coming. Well, let me tell you what's coming. It is going to be on a scale that we've never seen before. And when it happens, I believe it's going to happen swiftly. You know, it was interesting because when you look at like Iran and China and Russia and North Korea and the transnational criminal organizations, aka cartels, are embedded. They are intertwined. Not only from the BRICS, which I won't get into that and all of the coziness that's going along to devalue the dollar, which is part of the strategy as well, but the incredible footprint that they have. Not only do we have all of these encampments, right, and all these facilities and processing and food facilities and aid shelters, all of this set up. Now you look at strategically, Alex, China, one of the most concerning things I think that I've seen China do, it's in Argentina. There's a space in Argentina, they have a facility set up for a quote unquote space and satellite observations. The Argentinian people can only have 10% access to this facility. I believe it is a major, major spy facility. I'd love to come on and really break that down later on. But China has major military port in Peru. We broke that story, by the way, a month ago, way before Fox News gave a little blurb about it a couple days ago. $3 billion port that can house submarines and military grade equipment, dual purpose port. Jamaica, dual purpose port. Barbados, they are building a military facility in Barbados, by the way, which our satellites have been able to detect undisturbed land, which we believe is the starting force military IBM silos. Cuba, IBM silos, military spy espionage camps in Cuba, China. Iran, same thing. I can just go over and over again. We are being choked out and surrounded by the enemy. I believe because we have an administration that is beholden to the new globalist agenda and more importantly to China.
Biden's going to be dead in a few years. We all know that. But yes, I agree. They are beholden to the new world agenda. Yeah, that's exactly it. And yeah, I don't think it's going to work. There was a reason why I paused it. I apologize, guys.
That China's a major player in all of this. And we need to understand that we have enemies inside at the highest levels who are committing treason. And I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or independent. I don't affiliate with any party because they're all corrupt on all fronts. If they've been in office for a long time, Mitch McConnell, I could name names. All of these individuals have a globalist view. They do not care about.
Sure. So what do you make of Trump? But also, why are they? Because I have the UN head of global emergency response, Dr. Ryan, saying we're going to build camps, we're going to take families, we're going to break up people, we're going to put people in camps that don't agree with us. So they use COVID to beta test us. What are they getting the camps ready for? World War III, economic collapse, a new virus? I mean, because it's, as you said, it's all over the world. They're building these under UN sponsorship while the UN runs the third world invasion force after cutting their country's resources off for years during lockdowns and then organize them to invade. But what is the...
This is what I was going to say. None of this was happening under Trump. No one messed with us. There was no wars. There was world peace. He even went into South Korea, which Obama said that was the #1 enemy. And nothing happened. Russia invaded. The last 3 out of 4 presidents didn't invade with Trump. You want to know why? Because he led through peace, through strength. He did not give a shit. He did not take shit. And he said, if you're going to do this, we're going to come at you with the full force of the United States military. And people know that our military is not to mess with. Well, these days it is, because they're bringing in the trans cult into the military and feminizing it. And so now we have record low enrollment, which is understandable. But under Trump, peace through strength. He led through strength, which came with peace later, the Abraham's Accords, peace in the Middle East, no wars, drilling back at home, energy independence. I mean, thing was going good. And can you imagine if the pandemic never happened, how good Trump's economy was going to be? And that is why they released it, because everything was going so good before COVID, and they needed the Black Swan event to screw up Trump's credit. And now look, we're back to square one. Actually, we're back to negative square one.
Trigger for all this. Why are they running around like an angry beehive or angry anthill expanding these?
Well, first and foremost, their 2030 agenda had to be supercharged to 2025. Those aren't my words. Those are actual words from the WEF.
You're right, because they're behind.
They're behind. Well, and also, they're a little arrogant. And so they are smug, and they let the cat out of the bag a little bit sooner. They thought that they could do this.
And by the way, their
quicker.
smugness is an act. From my own research, they're in a lot of trouble.
They are. So they're scrambling to keep their plans together. And we are so far behind the curve, Alex. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm very hopeful that the American people and the rest of the world who love freedom, love liberty, who are willing to stand up, not just act. Words, it's great to sit around a table and discuss this, or on your programs. Words are...
This is actually why I got into this kind of stuff. Obviously, to meet you guys. I'm talking about content creating, because I do a YouTube channel, and then I kind of merge the YouTube videos all throughout the platforms. I did this because I'm like, there's not enough people speaking the truth. I don't care if I get 1 view. I don't care if I get 2 views. More eyes, more better. We need to be waking up the masses, expand the thinking, being able to critically think for yourself again, regardless if you hate Trump or you like Biden. Let me tell you, Biden's a lifetime career politician. Trump wasn't. A lifetime businessman who was successful. Everyone loved him. They wanted him in the movies. They put him in the rap songs. Biden, crackhead son, crackhead daughter. Don't even let me get you into that mess. We need to bring back critical thinking. This Trump derangement syndrome has really screwed these people up. And I just don't get the hatred, why they have so much hatred and betray everything on Trump, yet support Biden, which is everything they said Trump was. This is why we do need more people to speak out, to come forward as whistleblowers, to just talk.
Are powerful, but more powerful than words. Are you actually getting off your butt?
And let's talk about action, because people can see all the craziness. They know the big moves happening. This is it, folks. You're totally right.
It is. So me and my team, including JJ Carroll, who you had on your show last week, and I have a deputy sheriff who's coming, and then of course some individuals who have been in special operations and some of the best legal eagles for lawfare. We're willing to come and spend a day in your community and train you on what you need to do.
Well, Americans have to recognize the globalists are going to use crises to get total control. They admit that, the Rockefeller and Rand Corporation, the UN documents. They've already been caught running the COVID power grab. And so exactly, we know what it is. We've got to become aware of this and not comply, because they've tried the bird flu. They've tried the monkeypox. They've tried it all. People aren't buying it. That's the good news. It's as negative as this all is, Christy. It seems like people aren't buying it.
Well, unfortunately, as I think there's still a lot of people out there who drink the Kool-Aid, right? And who believe this no matter what you say.
No, there's always followers, but there's a bigger and bigger group.
Yeah, but there is going to be a lot of liberals who are still asleep at the wheel, who are still brain dead zombies, who are NPRs, as I call them, or CNN, MSNBC brains. But right now we can see a revolution, not just happen in the US, but worldwide. I mean, you see what happened in, what is it? El Salvador, or who's the new guy in, I'm so bad with names. Didn't France also, they just had a red election sweep, actually. I'm telling you. This is the season of the red election wave that we've been planning for forever. And you know what? It's too big, there's too many people that are going to be voting for Trump and conservatives across the board throughout the world that I think the rig is too much. I mean, There's not enough people to come make those votes compared to the people who are going to be voting for these conservative populists.
Of leaders.
There's individuals who are really starting to step up. I'm seeing this all over the world. People are waking up. I love the fact that people are waking up, but we have to be in unison with. Here's the most important thing: there's no I in team in military operations. No operation can be executed without multiple individuals involved. And what do I mean by that? Trump is going to be great. Hopefully, if he gets back into office, we'll see that the jury's out. But I don't put my hope in that. What I'm putting my hope in is training effective individuals, civilians, to be in unity together, shoulder to shoulder, properly.
To recognize they got a plan to create a crisis to get us to accept rounding everybody up in total control. I agree. So in the time we've got left, we'll have you back. Let's go into the rest of your synopsis and your breakdown. Potential repurposing uses, detention, internment camps, military barracks, logistics hubs, interrogation intelligence centers, quarantine health control centers, civilian control centers. This is all in the official documents that are public. What's your point about potentially repurposing these?
So if you look at history always repeats itself. So during World War II, Nazi, and I believe a lot of these plans were formulated out of what Joseph Goebbels and Hitler and his team were able to formulate to control and to direct.
Sure, they had a population control plan. They had a space program. They had exactly, and that kind of got grabbed by the United States. That's not your opinion. That's on record.
That's correct. So what have they done? So any good leader they don't have to reinvent the wheel. What they do is they benchmark and then they tweak it, right? So that's what you're seeing, this tweaking of this diabolical evil plan by the Nazi regime, and then you couple it in and sprinkle it in with these world leaders, arrogant individuals who think they know more, these elitists, and they've developed this plan to completely reset the world on a global stage. Again, I've already said we already have a parallel government in place. You know, Alex, I say you look at the World Economic Forum, think about that as the White House, because I like to put this in layman's terms. You've got the United Nations, think of the United Nations as our Senate and the House of Representatives, the IMF, the banking system, NATO, our military force, the WHO.
All unelected bureaucrats, which is exactly why the minute Trump gets in, he needs to have the biggest deportation in history, 1. 2, fire all of these unelected bureaucrats. 3, just take out all the woke military officers who have brought this cancer into the military. 4, teachers union, bye-bye, deuces. You guys have been pushing queer theory and CRT on young kids and kids of all ages, and that will never be allowed again. No more it's just, there's so much that needs to be done, and I really hope that this time around we just get rid of the whole deep state. Left, right, doesn't matter what side you're on. No more corrupt politicians, period. You work for the people who nominate you. The end.
The FDA and CDC. So you can see that we've got this parallel government already ready to go. And by the way, the leaders are already in place there with where their roles will be. And so everyone's like, well, who are they? Well, that's who they are. The banking system is huge. These people are evil, by the way. The Rothschilds, we don't even have time to get in on. I know you have educated leaders. So what I'm trying to say is, the final phase is the military operation, and how do you, under the noses of everybody in the world, the American people, usher in internment camps, all of these reprocessing camps, everything.
You know, I've been thinking this for quite some time, because I've been hearing about martial law coming back, because they know they can't win the election, so they're going to bring back martial law. What do you guys think? Because I've been very curious about this. Obviously, we have military members who need to feed their families who are doing these things, even though I couldn't do half the things, or Border Patrol who are allowing this to happen, even though they're under orders. How do you think it's going to be when they have all these older ex-military, retired police officers who are already out of the military, and then you have these guys just following orders, hunting down these people outside of homes, or taking them and forcing them into these camps? That is going to be crazy times, because I'm guaranteeing now that shit is coming, and it's coming sooner than later. These camps we're going to be forced into, especially Trump supporters. How is that going to even happen? Like, I'm thinking retired military and people who got kicked out are going to go against these people, or how is that going to go? Because I know a lot of these people who are just doing their job have morals, but I don't know how that comes down. Like, is there going to be a standoff? Is it just going to be war, like American versus American, ex-military versus military in right now? Crazy, crazy, crazy. Next few months are going to be insane, I'm telling you.
That we need to, the brainwashing camps, well, you do it under mass migration, right? Or under a pandemic. And that's what we've seen. And that's what we're seeing in 4 years, multi-trillions of dollars being spent for the demise of the American ideology and the Constitution, quite frankly.
And you have the Democrats claiming Trump's a dictator, he's going to kill everybody, he's going to bring in martial law, because it's the opposite. They're already bringing it in.
Oh,
as I previously said, the Dems always accuse Trump and accuse the conservatives of exactly what Biden and them they are. They've been saying Trump's a dictator for how long now, saying he's going to martial law, as they're literally in the process of doing that exact thing. These people think Americans are stupid. Let me tell you again, the politicians, especially on the left, think you're an idiot.
It's already done. I mean, that part's already done. They always will say the other person's doing what they're actually doing. It's a classic psychological warfare, right? And you repeat a lie long enough, it becomes the truth to the people, and that's why you see the propaganda machine. You know, I think of what's going on in the modern media, and you look at what Joseph Goebbels was able to do with back then's technology. Imagine the reason why we've been able to polarize a world, right? A population, with all of the media singing to that with a very a supercharged psychological operation. And they use things that pull at our heartstrings, right? That make sense. Well, I don't want grandma to die. I don't want to infect somebody else. Wow, you know,
they guilt you to be the good guy and be the hero, and they use good people for total control. We'll have you back, Christy Hutcherson. People can find you at WFFA.win and meet.
Guys, I'm telling you, we need more people speaking out, not just like me. Just start your YouTube channel and start just talking to the people. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Crazy live video right there. I know it's an hour long. I appreciate all who even took a second to watch the video. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Stay safe. Love you, Americans. Have a great day. Peace.